Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent role-playing game. This week I'll be taking a look at a Gamebook-style RPG called Dust and Salt. Developed and published by Prime Games, it is released on Steam on January 25th, 2018, and is currently available for $7.99 US. Dust and Salt is a Gamebook-style game in the vein of sorcery and fighting fantasy, but with a different, unaffiliated system. As such, it is extremely narrative-driven and text-heavy. However, it does have a simplified tactical combat element, which can redeem it in the eyes of some who dislike the gamebook genre, but probably not. Dust and Salt's setting is that of a low-fantasy, European-inspired land called the Land of Sin. Divided amongst several powers, it is threatened by the rise and aggression of a city called Merc. The story begins with the son of a barbarian warrior out learning to hunt with his father. After his father and village are slaughtered by the soldiers of Merc, Wayward, the self-named main character, then goes about training and trying to unite an army to face Merc. To do this, he travels throughout the land making decisions and engaging in combat. The game is a Gamebooks-inspired game, so the vast majority of play will be reading large blocks of text and making choices based on what your character has already encountered or their particular skills. Choices you make during the opening chapters determine what your character has in terms of equipment and skills, while the troops they acquire and those troops' attitudes towards you will also rely largely on the choices that you make. When you come to some decision points, your past choices may limit or open new options, and you get the chance to test certain skills. Rather than having a number in a particular skill, you either have it or you don't. If the skill is tested and you do have it, the game will give some information which will indicate which choice of the next choice batch is the correct one. If you don't have it, you either do not get a choice or the correct choice is not highlighted for you. Likewise, if you have a particular weapon in your offhand, it may open up a certain option in combat narratives that you ordinarily would not possess. The other two attributes that you have are life and glory. As you make decisions that give you renown or you win battles, you gain glory, while life represents how you survive direct threats to your life. As stated above, the vast number of choices are done in a narrative format, like a proper gamebook or choose-your-own-adventure style game. However, between sections, you are presented with a travel map. This provides options as to which story section to engage in next, offering a bit of strategy in whatever order you wish to approach the different sections of the plot. The other major component of the game is the Tactical Battle Grid. The Tactical Battle Grid is a hex-based grid of varying size and layout that is used for major combat. Your army may be selected initially from those tribes you unite, but you will get additional troops based on the allies you secure as the game progresses. Oddly enough, not all combat takes place on the hex grid. Irregular combat, such as street-to-street fighting or the like, may cost you particular troops before a combat even properly begins, while you're still in the narrative text mode based on what your actions are. Once a combat does begin on the battle grid, troops are placed on a hex grid away from one another. Each troop is represented by a single icon, with a number representing how many of that particular troop type you have. This is somewhat similar to the Heroes of Might and Magic series, albeit simplified. Each group of troops has a particular troop type, be it light or heavy infantry, archer, cavalry, or whatnot. Each troop type may have advantages or disadvantages against other troop types. This is not only useful to remember on the hex grid, but also in narrative battles. For instance, when you're asked what sort of troops to set against charging horses in the text before the battle, you may reduce the enemy's forces without taking any hits yourself if you select, say, spearmen. In battle, all of the troops on a particular side may move and attack in turn. This is very simple, as each troop has a limited movement range, which they can then go through, and when they are in range of the opponent, the amount of damage they can do versus that opponent is shown on a mouse over. Once all of the troops on a particular side have gone, then the other side does its turn all at once. Overall, the combat is extremely simple, and in that aspect requires as much management prior to engagement via the appropriate choices in the text as it does using the troop type versus troop type weaknesses, since eliminating some opponents entirely before combat may be a significant advantage. Graphically, the game is relatively simple, again, with hand-drawn art and static sprites to indicate troop tokens, but almost everything actually looks pretty polished, and with a text-based game, the static nature of the background visuals is not out of place. The writing is actually excellent, and feels very much like reading a proper novel. If one is going to have a gamebook-style feel, then the least that can be done is to ensure that the writing and plots are interesting, and I think that Dust and Salt meets that and then some. The music is a nice, atmospheric, Nordic-based soundtrack, and honestly, I thought that was the best part of the game. I seriously want to see the OST of this game and or music just like it available for separate purposes. Now, if you don't like text-heavy gamebook-style games, this one's not going to convert you. The heavy reliance on reading will limit its audience necessarily, and the presence of the hex-based tactical combat, while a nice bonus, isn't really enough to change that. It's not without its issues as well. It's barely an RPG, as the skill system, such as it is, and the limited inventory options may be too simplified for many, even people who usually enjoy other types of gamebooks. Still, the rest of the game comes together very nicely, and the price point isn't about what one would expect of a decent-sized novel, which may be more appropriate comparisons for people who enjoy this kind of genre. I personally would have liked to see the price point a little bit lower, but it's not exorbitant by any means for the amount of content and gameplay provided, and the different decision points do give a limited amount of replay value on top of the standard course through the game, especially since the nature of those choices a leader makes would actually allow different paths to be taken to success, from the wise, kind ruler to the cruel conqueror to many ways in between. I'm personally a bit of a fan of the gritty nature of the world that's shown in here, since some options are really muddled, with no clear good or evil path, and that can be the nature of such conflicts in general. All in all, I do recommend this for people who enjoy a gamebook-style game, or a good martial fantasy, low fantasy-style story. I look forward to seeing what the studio comes up with in the future. For now, this has been the RPG Crawler with the Indie Game Friday, Dust and Salt. The Steam link will be in the description below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you've got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. If you are feeling particularly generous, I do have a Patreon at patreon.com/rpgcrawler. Until next time, take care and goodbye.